Yo, what's up everyone, Casey here, KD Traveling Interview, back with another travel story reaction video. So I came across this YouTuber on Facebook actually. I've seen a few of his videos on Facebook. His name is Drew Binksky. Drew Binksky? Yeah, Drew Binksky. And I'll leave a link to his channel in the description down below if you guys want to check him out. So I noticed he's been uploading this past year his scary travel stories. So that's what I'm going to be reacting to now. It's actually part 1. At least the video that I think is part 1, because I've only seen part 2 and part 3. But then there's my 3 scariest travel stories. And that's the video that we're going to react today. If you want to follow along, I'll leave a link to the video in the description down below. And I'm really hoping that that it lives up to the title, because that BuzzFeed, I think it was BuzzFeed, I just did, wasn't horrifying. Alright, let's get into it.
I often get asked what are my scariest travel moments, so I've decided to share with you my top 3 from visiting 161 countries. Please note that everything you are about to hear is 100% based off my own personal travel experiences and nothing more. Okay, my 3rd scariest travel situation happened to me in Astana, Kazakhstan in 2017. So I was there in March. It was the coldest place I've ever felt, and I didn't even have cold clothes with me because I was traveling around Southern Europe. And I had my camera with me and I was taking some photos of these monuments, which looked beautiful to me at the time. And as I was taking a photo...
I love... like, do you hear the music in the background? It's like trying to amp up the story.
This cop came up to me and he pointed and he said, "You come here," and I was like, "Oh damn." He asked me where my passport is and I said, "I don't have my passport, it's at my hotel, which is just around the corner." And I was asking him if I could go.
Whenever you go to a foreign country, don't travel around with your passport, which he wasn't, but always have a photocopy of at least your identification. So when someone asks you for your passport, like a police asks you for your passport, you have a copy of your identification. So don't walk around with your passport, just do a photocopy.
I retrieved the passport and he said, "No, you come with me, we go in the cop car." And I was really scared. Kazakhstan is not a country that you want to go to a police station in. As I know it, he was taking me to the police station on this.
No foreign country is what you want to be in a police in. Well, I don't know anything about Kazakhstan. Maybe it's just as corrupt as here in the US, if not more. I don't know. I'm not passing judgment.
Street, and I was like shaking. I was so nervous. I thought I was gonna get in big trouble. And basically, long story short, I took out my wallet. I gave him $50 worth in local currency, and he let me go. Thankfully, it was really scary, and I didn't know that I wasn't able to take photos, or he was just being really, really strict. My 2nd scariest travel moment was in Chad in 2018, about 6 months ago. So I was in the capital of N'Djamena, Chad. I get there, and I have a local buddy who's taking me around. We jumped on a motorbike taxi in the middle of the city, and he was riding ahead of me, so I was quite far behind him. And all of a sudden, the police tries to pull over my motorbike driver, and I was like, okay, maybe this is normal. And my driver kept speeding up, and all of a sudden we're caught in this police chase in downtown N'Djamena, Chad, cutting through dirt roads, just cars slamming on their brakes, honking, and I was holding on for dear life. The police finally caught up to the driver. He said, "Show me your license and registration," and apparently the driver had stolen the bike and he wasn't a taxi driver. So...
What? The driver wasn't even a taxi driver. He just stole the bike. And Drew had no idea. Yo, that's crazy. And he was on a police chase on a motorbike. Like, can you imagine if they went on an accident? Like, that's crazy.
The driver had nothing else to do but push the policeman. All of a sudden, it starts this giant brawl right in front of my eyes. People from the street are like freaking out and they all run in. So I duck out and I go into this mini shared taxi thing and I calm down. And after about 20 minutes, I'm finally calm. And there was a really cute kid sitting next to me. His parents were not in the taxi. And so I just...
Yo, like, imagine telling your family and friends this. Like, it's one of those things where you had to be there in order to believe it.
Just took a photo of him, and the driver of the car slammed on the brakes, pulled me over, grabbed my shirt, twisted it. There was like a huge brawl that was happening, and I had to really talk my way out of it. This guy threatened to pull out a knife, and it was a very scary situation. Admittedly, I could have avoided it by not taking the photo, but I've never been treated like that, and I think it was really
Don't take photos of kids.
What happened to me in N'Djamena, Chad on that day. And finally, my scariest travel moment happened to me in India in February of 2015. I was traveling overnight on a bus from Udaipur to Jodhpur. The bus departed
I can't
at
get over
midnight.
this music.
I was the only foreigner. It was a sleeper bus, so I was situated on the top bunk on the left side. And so we're about an hour into the journey and I'm starting to doze off, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the bus driver slams on the brakes, turns the wheel left all the way, and the bus flips over the freeway, completely flips over, all the windows shattered, everybody's screaming and crying, there's babies on board. At that moment, I checked my heart to see if it was still beating because I thought I had died. And I remember looking up through my fingertips, and there were glass and dust everywhere, and I put my hands up here, and I remember seeing these guys' feet, and they were dangling ahead of me because he was holding onto the bar. It was the scariest moment of my life. We had to escape out the side, which was the roof, because all the windows were shattered. I actually had a bunch of glass stuck in my foot. I was wearing sandals and my foot was covered in blood. I jumped like 10 feet down, and 2 people were stuck in the bus, and they didn't make it out alive. And the reason I know that is because everybody was circled around and they kept doing this. Everybody was bawling and they kept doing this. I'm not telling you these stories to scare you away from traveling, but rather just to show you some real life situations that can happen to you at any time.
Yo. So basically what I learned from this video is do not travel with Drew Binksky. That's insane. Like, how are you sleeping on a bus and that shit just flips over? Yo. Alright, what's my scariest travel story? So you guys already know I'm in the military, and when I was active duty, the unit that I was in, our AOR was South America. So we would go to South America like a couple weeks and then come back. So it was my first TDY to Colombia, which is the greatest thing that could ever happen to me because, you know, Shakira is from Colombia and that's basically holy land for me. So we go down to the aircraft heading to Colombia. It was like I think it was a C-17. It wasn't a C-130. What was it, a C-130? I think it was a C-17. We were in a C-17. So I don't know if you guys ever been in a military aircraft, but for our size and the equipment that we traveled with, everybody was sitting in like the perimeter of the cargo area, and all of our stuff, like our pallets, were in the rear of the aircraft, and we had a 4K forklift, which is this huge forklift, and it was like towards the front. You know, you gotta balance it out, right? But basically it was in the middle. I mean, not in the middle of the aircraft, but in the middle from where we're sitting because we're in the perimeter. So we're flying down to Colombia, and we fly into the storm, and it was lightning, thunder, turbulence was bad, and the turbulence was so bad that the forklift would like bounce up and down, and it was so bad that it came loose a little. So every time we dropped, you could see like the forklift, it would take air, and you see it go up and then drop back down. Thankfully, the forklift didn't break free, because if it did and it rolled back, like, we would have been dead. That's it. But I wasn't near the forklift. This is what my friends were telling me that was sitting like you're here and the forklift is probably like 5 feet in front of you. But what was freaking me out, I don't like flying in general, even though I fly like 2 to 3 times a year because I like to travel a lot. I don't like flying, mainly because I hate turbulence, and was like one of my biggest nightmares, was flying through this storm, because we kept dropping, and I think the pilot was trying to get out of the storm clouds, I guess. So I'm just like gripping onto my seat with my eyes closed, and everybody's laughing at me because like I'm freaking out. I'm like doing just breathing like that, and everybody's laughing. He was like, oh, Cologne's scary, blah blah blah, and everybody's having a fun time. And at one point it was just like it kept dropping, and it was like a roller coaster, so everybody had their hands in the air, and I'm just there like, oh, please don't crash, please don't crash. And at one point it was a drop that was probably like 3 seconds, 5 seconds long, and it was the longest 3 to 5 seconds I've ever experienced. I thought we were nose diving and we were gonna crash. That's how long those seconds felt like. And we were dropping, and everyone went from like roller coaster, like, yeah, this is so fun, to, oh shit, we're about to die. Thankfully, we did not die. Obviously, I'm here talking to you guys. We were routed to South Carolina, I believe it was, Charleston Air Force Base. I think it's in South Carolina. Apparently there was like damage to the aircraft. I don't know what happened, but they were able to repair that overnight, and we spent the night in Charleston, and we left the next morning and we made it safely to Colombia. So that was my scariest travel story. I have a couple more, but I think I'll share with you guys in the next video. With that said, let me know what your scariest travel story is. Leave that in the comments down below and I'll comment back to you. And like always, peace and love.